Everyone dreams of financial freedom, yet most never ask themselves the most important question: why would money want to come to me? Money, after all, is only a reward for service, discipline, and value. If you don't change who you are, money will keep passing you by. But if you build yourself into a person of value, you won't have to go looking for money. Money will come looking for you. Have you ever noticed that most people spend their lives chasing money, yet somehow it always runs faster than they do? What if I told you that money is not meant to be chased? It's meant to be attracted. Like bees to a flower, like iron to a magnet, money flows where value grows. The real question is, are you becoming the kind of person money wants to follow? You know, one of the greatest lessons I'd ever learned about money is this: you don't get paid for the hour, you get paid for the value you bring to that hour. Time is equal for everyone. We each get 24 hours a day, rich or poor, young or old. So if it isn't the time that determines how much you earn, what does? It's the value. And that's the key that unlocks everything. The question is not, how do I get more time? The question is, how do I become more valuable in the time I have? That's where wealth begins. I remember a mentor once told me, if you want things to change, you have to change. If you want things to get better, you must get better. At first, it struck me hard. I thought life would get better when the government changed, or the company changed, or when the economy turned around. But that was a mistake. The real turning point came when I understood that my future wealth was tied to my personal development. The marketplace doesn't reward need, it rewards value. You can need a raise desperately, but that won't bring it. The raise comes when you've increased the value you bring to the table. Now, how do you increase your value? You increase it by acquiring rare and useful skills. Think about it. If you're only worth the minimum, you'll be paid the minimum. But if you become the person who can solve bigger problems, who can lead people, who can close sales, who can manage millions, you'll be paid according to that. Don't ask for things to be easier. Ask for yourself to be better. That shift in philosophy changes everything. I'll give you an example from my own life. In the early days, I was just getting by. My checks barely covered my expenses, and my dreams seemed far away. But then I committed myself to learning. I picked up books on sales, communication, leadership. I began to spend an hour a day deliberately building skills that the marketplace needed. Within a short time, everything changed. My opportunities grew, my confidence grew, and yes, my income followed right along. What was the difference? Not the hours. I still had the same 24. It was the value I packed into them. Now, the good news is, you can start small. You don't need to master everything in 1 week. But imagine what one focused hour a day will do over the course of a year. That's 365 hours. Imagine what you could learn in 365 hours devoted to sales, to communication, to leadership, or investing. That's the equivalent of a university-level education, and you can do it without ever stepping into a classroom. The practical step is simple. Pick one high-income skill and give it an hour every day. Guard that hour. Let it be sacred. Over time, it will transform not only your earning ability, but also your confidence and the way people perceive you. Because when you increase your value, opportunities begin to find you. Money begins to find you. Success begins to chase you. The world pays for value. And when you decide to become more valuable, you set in motion a wealth that time alone could never buy. That's where real change begins. When you decide to increase your value to the marketplace. One of the first lessons I had to learn, and I learned it the hard way, is that money flees from mismanagement. It doesn't matter how much you earn. If you don't know how to handle it, it will slip through your fingers as quickly as it comes. You see, the real secret isn't multiplying money first. It's managing what you already have. Because if you can't be trusted with pennies, you'll never be trusted with dollars. Wealth begins not with abundance, but with stewardship. I once asked a wealthy man what his secret was. He smiled and said, "It's not about how much comes in, it's about how much stays." That struck me deeply. I'd met people who made twice, even 3 times what I made, and yet they were broke. Why? Because they never learned how to manage. They thought the solution to their financial problems was more money. But here's the truth. More money only magnifies your habits. If your habit is spending without discipline, then earning more will only make you broke at a higher level. It's not the amount that matters, it's the method. I had to look at myself in the mirror and ask, where is my money going? I couldn't answer. And that's when I realized I was living in ignorance. The turning point came when I started tracking every single dollar, writing it down, studying it, making myself accountable. And let me tell you, it was humbling. I discovered just how much was leaking away in little things. A coffee here, a snack there, a gadget I didn't need. Each expense seemed harmless on its own, but together they were stealing my future. Here's the philosophy. The marketplace doesn't reward mismanagement. It doesn't put more resources in the hands of those who squander. But if you show discipline with the little, life will trust you with more. That's not just financial truth. It's a life principle. If you handle a little with care, you'll be given the chance to handle more. If you waste a little, you'll be left with less, no matter how much you earn. So the strategy is simple. Track with precision. Don't let money be a mystery. Make every dollar answer to you. Set up a simple system. Nothing fancy at first. A notebook, a spreadsheet, even a piece of paper will do. Record what comes in, record what goes out, and review it. Ask yourself, was this necessary? Did this bring value? Could I have redirected this towards something that grows? That kind of reflection builds financial muscle. The practical step is straightforward but powerful. For the next 30 days, write down every expense, no matter how small. At the end of the month, sit down and review. I promise you'll find patterns. You'll spot the leaks. And once you spot them, you can redirect that money into savings, investments, or education. That little shift, plugging the leaks, can make the difference between staying stuck and building a fortune. Remember, wealth doesn't begin with multiplication. It begins with management. If you can learn to manage a little faithfully, life will reward you with the opportunity to manage more. And when you master management, you'll discover that money no longer runs from you, it starts to chase you. Discipline has always been the great separator, the thing that divides those who dream from those who achieve. I learned early on that it's not what we do occasionally that shapes our lives, it's what we do consistently. Think about it. One workout doesn't make you healthy, one book doesn't make you wise, and one good financial decision doesn't make you wealthy. It's the repetition, the habit, the pattern over time. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment, and without that bridge, dreams remain stranded on the far shore, unreachable. When I was younger, I wanted success, but I thought motivation was enough. I thought if I got inspired, I'd take big action. But inspiration is fleeting. It's like a spark. Discipline, though, is the wood that keeps the fire burning. If you rely on feeling good before you act, you'll act too rarely. But if you train yourself to do what must be done, regardless of mood, you begin to control your future. That's when life begins to reward you. Here's the truth. Every act of discipline carries a reward, and every act of neglect carries a consequence. Neglect eats away at your confidence, your finances, your health, your future. It whispers, just skip today. Just do it tomorrow. But here's what tomorrow teaches us. It usually looks a lot like yesterday. The habits we build, or the ones we fail to build, show up in the reflection of our lives. If you want to know where someone will be in 5 years, look at what they're doing daily. The strategy then is to design small habits that strengthen your decision-making muscle. Think of discipline like a muscle. It doesn't get stronger by chance. It gets stronger by deliberate use. And you don't start by lifting a heavy weight. You start small. A commitment to read 10 pages a day, to save $10 a week, to do one act of kindness. Over time, these small disciplines build a foundation so strong that bigger goals become natural extensions of who you are. I remember a time when I wasn't disciplined with my mornings. I would wake up just in time to rush into the day, already behind, already overwhelmed. Life felt like it was running me instead of me running it. But when I made the decision to get up just 30 minutes earlier and dedicate that time to a priority task, reading, journaling, exercising, planning, my whole life began to shift. It wasn't about the 30 minutes. It was about what those minutes represented. They represented control, intentionality, and the beginning of momentum. So here's the practical step. Set your alarm 30 minutes earlier tomorrow morning. Don't just wake up for the sake of being awake. Wake up with purpose. Use that time for something that matters. Read a few pages that grow your mind. Write down your goals. Invest in a skill. Exercise to build your energy. Do something before the world starts demanding from you. That one act of self-discipline, repeated daily, becomes the seedbed for extraordinary growth. Discipline doesn't just make you stronger, it makes you trustworthy to yourself, to others, and to life itself. And when you build that kind of consistency, you'll discover that the dreams you once thought were far away are suddenly within reach, carried to you on the bridge you built with discipline. Most people treat money as something to be used up the moment it arrives. The paycheck comes in, and before it even touches the account, it's already spent, new clothes, a fancy dinner, the latest gadget. But here's the tragedy. Spenders only consume, and what's consumed is gone forever. An investor, on the other hand, understands that every dollar has potential. A dollar can either vanish into fleeting pleasure or be planted into fertile soil where it grows and returns with friends. The philosophy is simple but powerful. Money must multiply, not just disappear. I used to live like a spender myself. When I was young, I thought money was for enjoyment only. And while there's nothing wrong with enjoying life, what I didn't understand back then was that enjoyment without investment is short-lived. I learned that a spender buys the illusion of wealth, but an investor builds the foundation of it. A spender buys shoes, an investor buys the store. A spender buys entertainment, an investor buys the company producing it. And the difference between the two is not income, it's mindset. The strategy here is to begin thinking of money as seed. A seed is small, often overlooked, sometimes even discarded. But a seed has hidden power. It can multiply itself. And once it's planted in the right ground, it grows into something far larger than what you started with. That's how money works when handled with wisdom. If you consume the seed, that's the end of the story. But if you plant it, you start a cycle of harvests. And just like farming, the harvest doesn't come overnight. It requires patience, care, and discipline. Yet, in due time, the reward far surpasses the seed you planted. Now, this doesn't mean you have to start with millions. In fact, you don't even need thousands. What you need is a system and the discipline to stick to it. If you begin redirecting just 10% of your monthly income into appreciating assets, stocks, real estate, a small business, even your own education, you begin to shift from spender to investor. 10% might not sound like much. Some people will laugh at it, dismiss it, But here's what I know. Wealth is not built in leaps, it's built in layers. Each investment compounds, grows, and eventually creates streams of income that flow back to you long after the initial effort. I remember when I bought my first small investment, it wasn't impressive, not something that would make headlines, but it was mine. It was money redirected from consumption into creation. And that one step changed me, because it wasn't just about the money, it was about who I was becoming. I was no longer someone who merely spent, I was someone who planted. And when you start thinking like that, something shifts deep inside. You begin to see opportunities everywhere. That meal you skip at a restaurant doesn't feel like deprivation anymore. It feels like another seed planted. That gadget you don't buy becomes part of the foundation of your future. So the practical step is simple. Take 10% of your next paycheck and plant it. Put it in an index fund. Open a retirement account. Start building equity in something that grows. The exact vehicle isn't the point. The point is the habit. Once you become an investor in practice, not just in theory, money stops slipping through your fingers and starts working for you. Because in the end, spenders run out of money, but investors never run out of harvests. And the person who learns to plant wisely will always have a future filled with abundance. It's one thing to learn how to make money, but it's another thing entirely to learn how to keep it. In fact, I've seen people with extraordinary ability to earn end up with nothing to show for it, because they mastered the art of making money but never understood the discipline of protecting it. Wealth that is unprotected is like a bucket with holes. You can pour as much as you want into it, but if you don't patch the leaks, it will drain away. And too often, people celebrate their ability to earn without realizing that the true game of wealth is preservation. I remember meeting a man who was earning more in a month than most families earned in a year. He drove the best cars, lived in a beautiful home, and wore the sharpest suits. But a few years later, he was broke, completely bankrupt. What happened? He never built walls around his wealth. He thought the flow would never stop, but money always looks for cracks. And when the flow slows or stops, what you've protected is all that remains. The philosophy is simple. It's not enough to gather, you must guard. The strategy for this is to get educated about the tools that shield your wealth. Just like you lock the doors to your home at night, you must lock the doors to your financial house. Insurance is not just an expense, it's protection against the storms of life. Trusts and legal structures aren't just for the wealthy. They're for anyone who wants to ensure that what they've built doesn't vanish in a lawsuit, in poor planning, or in unnecessary taxation. And safe investments, while they may not be flashy, are the anchors that keep your financial ship from capsizing in a storm. The wealthy don't just chase returns, they focus on preservation. If you study them, you'll find that before they chase the next opportunity, they've already created a safety net. They know that risk is part of the game, but unmanaged risk is foolishness. They diversify, they insure, they create legal protections, and as a result, even if one venture fails, their overall foundation remains intact. I had to learn this lesson personally. When I first started earning good money, I thought the key was just to keep reinvesting, keep multiplying. But then I suffered losses that nearly wiped me out, not because I was reckless, but because I was unprotected. That experience taught me to slow down, to understand that it's not the fastest who win the race of wealth, it's the most prepared. Once I built systems of protection, I could take bigger risks because I knew my foundation was secure. So here's a practical step you can take. Schedule a consultation with a financial advisor this year. Not next year, not someday, this year. Sit down with someone who understands the laws, the tools, and the strategies to help you protect what you're building. Let them help you design insurance coverage, trusts, or investment structures that give you peace of mind. You wouldn't drive a car without insurance, so why build a fortune without it? The truth is, making money will get you started, but keeping it will keep you free. And if you learn the discipline of protection, you'll not only build wealth, you'll secure it for yourself, your family, and even generations to come. There is something remarkable about the way life responds to generosity. You see, money is not meant to stop with you, it's meant to flow through you. If you hold it too tightly, it stagnates like water in a pond. But when you let it move, when you allow it to circulate beyond your own hands, it multiplies in ways you cannot measure. That's the philosophy of contribution. Wealth that ends with you dies, but wealth that flows through you multiplies. I've often said, success without contribution is a hollow victory. I remember a time early in my career when I was so focused on myself, my bills, my ambitions, my growth, that I forgot about the larger picture. Then I noticed something fascinating. The people who seemed most fulfilled, and often the wealthiest, were not the ones hoarding everything. They were the ones giving time, giving money, giving mentorship. And strangely enough, they were also the ones attracting even more opportunities, more partnerships, and yes, more wealth. Life has a way of rewarding those who share. The strategy here is simple but profound. Dedicate a portion of what you earn and who you are to helping others rise. Don't wait until you're rich to give. If you can't part with a dime out of $1, you'll never part with 100 out of 1,000. Contribution isn't about the amount, it's about the heart behind it. I've seen people give small amounts with such sincerity that it opened doors they could have never paid for with money alone. When you contribute, you declare to the universe, I have more than enough, and somehow that declaration attracts more. Think of it this way. When a farmer plants seed, he doesn't eat it all. He gives some of it back to the ground, and the ground multiplies it. That's what contribution does with wealth. When you give to a cause, support a community, or mentor someone just starting out, you're planting seeds that will bear fruit, not only in their lives, but also in yours. Some of the best business opportunities I ever received didn't come because I was chasing money. They came because I was helping someone without expecting anything in return. And in time, those seeds returned to me, multiplied. Now, contribution isn't limited to money. Your time, your wisdom, your encouragement, these are often more valuable than dollars. I can recall mentoring a young man who had ambition but no direction. I invested just a few hours into him, guiding him, helping him think bigger, and years later he became one of the most successful leaders in his field. The pride I felt in his growth was worth more than any paycheck. Contribution builds legacies, and legacies outlast wealth. Here's a practical step. Commit to giving 5-10% of your income to something beyond yourself. It could be a charity, a community initiative, your church, or even a fund to support education for those who can't afford it. And don't stop with money. Give your time, your mentorship, your attention. You'll be amazed at how life finds a way to send more back your way. The truth is, contribution is not loss, it is leverage. It multiplies the impact of your wealth, your influence, and your life. It's one thing to look rich on paper, but it's another thing entirely to live rich in reality. I've met people who had what seemed like tremendous net worth. They owned properties, businesses, or investments that looked impressive when you added them up on a balance sheet. But here's the problem. When the monthly bills came in, they were cash poor. They were worth millions on paper, but they didn't have the steady flow of income to cover their lifestyle without selling off parts of their empire. That's why I say wealth is not just about what you're worth on paper, but about what puts food on the table every month. Net worth may look good in a financial statement, but it doesn't buy groceries. Cash flow does. The philosophy here is simple. Real freedom comes from income that doesn't depend on your constant labor. If all your wealth is tied up in assets that don't produce cash, you're walking a thin line, because if life shakes you, and it will, you may be forced to liquidate just to survive. That's not freedom. That's stress wearing a nice suit. True wealth means your money comes in whether you're working or not. That's the difference between a high-salary employee and a financially free individual. One trades time for money, the other owns streams that keep flowing day and night. The strategy, then, is to focus on building consistent income streams that support both your lifestyle and your reinvestments. When I started learning this lesson, I realized I couldn't just be satisfied with commissions or earnings from my business. I needed assets that would pay me even when I wasn't selling, speaking, or building. So I started with small things. A little piece of real estate that produced rental income. Later, investments in companies that paid dividends. Eventually, royalties from projects I had put work into once, but that kept paying me again and again. That's when I began to feel the shift from working for money to having money work for me. Think of cash flow as the lifeblood of your financial life. Just like your body can't survive without circulation, your financial future can't survive without steady streams of cash. You can't eat equity. You can't pay bills with paper gains. But when you have cash flowing in from multiple places, you gain options. Options to reinvest. Options to give. Options to live with less fear. It changes the way you make decisions because you're no longer desperate for the next paycheck. Here's a practical step that anyone can begin this year. Acquire at least one cash-flowing asset. It doesn't have to be big. Maybe it's a stock that pays quarterly dividends. Maybe it's renting out a small property or even a room in your home. Maybe it's creating something, a book, a course, a product that earns royalties long after the work is done. The point is to start the habit of building streams of cash flow. Even a trickle is better than nothing, because once you learn the system, you can multiply it. Remember, financial independence doesn't come from how much you're worth. It comes from how much flows to you month after month without your labor. Build those streams and you'll discover that cash flow is the true measure of freedom. Most people never stop to realize that the ultimate luxury isn't the car in the driveway or the size of the house on the hill. It's time. Time is the one resource that once it's gone forever. The wealthy understand this, which is why they make a very different choice than most. While the poor often spend money on distractions, things that keep them entertained but not advancing, the wealthy spend money to buy back their time. They purchase freedom, not trinkets. And that shift in thinking makes all the difference between being stuck in the grind and being able to create a future worth living. The philosophy is simple. You can't spend your life mowing your lawn, fixing every leaky faucet, cooking every meal, and chasing every discount if what it cost you is your best creative energy. I remember when I was younger, I thought being frugal meant doing everything myself. It made me feel resourceful. But what it really did was chain me to low-value tasks while time slipped through my fingers. Later, I realized that freedom doesn't come from saving pennies on chores. It comes from multiplying dollars by focusing on the things only you can do. The wealthy ask, "What is my time worth per hour?" If it's $100, then why spend 3 hours doing a task you could pay someone $30 to do? That's not saving, it's losing $210 of opportunity. The strategy is to delegate low-value tasks and invest your time in high-value creation. Wealthy people don't just hoard money, they redirect it to buy back hours, then reinvest those hours into building assets, ideas, and opportunities that compound. Think about it. If you spend 2 hours cleaning the garage, that's 2 hours you didn't spend. learning a new skill, writing a proposal, designing a business plan, or nurturing a key relationship. The wealthy use money as a tool to create more time, and then they use that time as a tool to create more wealth. I saw this play out when I first started to build my business. In the beginning, I was doing everything. Making calls, handling paperwork, even stuffing envelopes late at night. Then one day it hit me. I'm spending hours doing $10 work while ignoring $1,000 opportunities. So I hired help. It felt uncomfortable at first because paying someone when money is tight feels risky. But that one decision freed me to spend more time building value, and the results came back tenfold. That's when I learned buying time is one of the smartest investments you'll ever make. Here's the practical step you can take right away. Choose one recurring task you do every week and outsource it. It doesn't have to be fancy. Maybe it's lawn care, meal prep, bookkeeping, or scheduling. Use the time you gain to focus exclusively on wealth building. Study investing. Start that side business. Create something that can pay you long after today. Even 2 or 3 hours a week, compounded over a year, can add up to massive progress. Never forget, wealth isn't just about what you own. It's about how much of your time belongs to you. Spend money on freedom, not distractions, and you'll find yourself not just richer in dollars, but richer in life. Debt, for most people, is a weight that drags them down. The average person views debt as a curse, something to avoid at all costs. But the wealthy understand that debt is neither inherently bad nor inherently good. Debt is simply a tool. It's how you use it that determines whether it will empower you or enslave you. It's not about avoiding debt altogether. It's about using it strategically to build wealth, not to fund a lifestyle of consumption. Bad debt chains you to a cycle of poverty, but good debt, used wisely, can propel you toward financial freedom. I remember when I first learned about the difference between consumer debt and investment debt. I had always thought that borrowing money was something to avoid. But then I came across the idea that if you borrow money to acquire something that produces more income than the debt itself, well, that's not just smart, it's essential for wealth building. Take, for example, borrowing money to buy rental properties. If the property generates more in rent than it costs in mortgage payments, maintenance, and taxes, then you're using debt as a tool to grow your wealth. In this case, the debt isn't a burden, it's an asset. The strategy is simple. Avoid consumer debt, the kind that you incur to buy things that depreciate, like cars, clothing, or expensive gadgets. These things don't add value to your life. They simply drain your finances. Instead, leverage debt in a way that supports your wealth-building efforts. You might use it to purchase real estate, invest in a business, or fund an education that will increase your earning potential. The key is to make sure that the debt you take on is going towards something that can either pay for itself or generate income over time. This is a crucial point. Never use debt to fund anything that doesn't have the potential to produce more income in the future. When you borrow money to buy a car that loses value the moment you drive it off the lot, you're making a bad financial decision. On the other hand, when you borrow money to buy a rental property that generates monthly cash flow, or to invest in stocks that pay dividends, you are making an investment in your future. Now, here's the practical step. Start by eliminating bad debt, consumer debt, one piece at a time. This could be a credit card balance, a personal loan, or any other debt that doesn't help you build wealth. Take that extra money you would have spent on interest payments and start investing it into something that grows your money. Along with paying off your bad debt, study one method of using leverage for productive investments. For example, look into real estate investment strategies Or consider learning about margin investing in the stock market. The goal is to start viewing debt as a powerful tool in your wealth-building toolkit. When used correctly, it can be the difference between achieving financial freedom and staying stuck in the rat race. When I first began using debt strategically, it felt uncomfortable. Borrowing money to invest in real estate was risky. But once I saw how it worked and how the cash flow from my properties far outweighed the costs of the debt, I understood that it's not about the debt itself, it's about the opportunity it creates. So, let me encourage you, don't fear debt, but don't misuse it either. Use it to create something that pays you back. The wealthiest people in the world don't avoid debt. They understand it, control it, and use it to generate more wealth. Don't let bad debt be the thing that holds you back. Let it be the thing that propels you forward. The world is constantly shifting. The markets evolve. Industries grow and shrink. And what's in demand today might be irrelevant tomorrow. If you want to build lasting wealth, you must learn to evolve alongside the market, not just react to it. Wealth doesn't come from standing still. It comes from anticipating changes and being prepared to move with them. The key is adaptability, the ability to see where things are going and align your actions accordingly. This is the fundamental difference between those who build wealth over time and those who struggle to keep up. Take a moment and think about the industries that have exploded over the past decade. Remember the rise of the tech industry, the dominance of the internet, or how social media has transformed businesses. These trends didn't come out of nowhere. People who made money in these industries didn't wait for an opportunity to land in their laps. They saw the changes happening around them and got involved early. They adapted. They made changes to their business models, adjusted their strategies, and ultimately, their wealth multiplied because they were ahead of the curve. Now, there's no guarantee that you'll always spot the next big trend, but there is one thing you can be sure of. Markets are always changing. And if you're not evolving with them, you'll be left behind. I'll give you an example from my own life. Early on, I noticed the shift from traditional businesses to online entrepreneurship. The way people marketed products, services, and information was evolving, and I could see the writing on the wall. At first, it seemed like a small thing, but over time, the internet became the driving force behind nearly every successful business. The people who embraced it early didn't just survive, they thrived. They adapted. The strategy here is to stop being a passive observer and start being an active participant. Don't wait for trends to pass you by. Learn to anticipate where things are headed. You must become a student of change, continuously scanning the horizon for emerging trends and new opportunities. Whether it's the growth of renewable energy, advancements in artificial intelligence, or the ongoing evolution of digital marketing, there's always something shifting in the market. And you have to be ready to adapt your strategies and investments to take advantage of these shifts. For example, let's say you're currently invested in traditional brick-and-mortar retail businesses. It's not enough anymore to simply rely on physical stores. You need to start thinking about how to move your products and services into the digital space. It's the same for any other market: real estate, the stock market, and even your own career. There's no such thing as set it and forget it anymore. The market is constantly evolving, and you must evolve with it. So, what's the practical step here? This month, dedicate some time to research a new market or trend that is emerging. It could be anything from the rise of electric vehicles to the boom in remote work or the increase in demand for sustainable products. Dive deep into that trend and start looking for ways to participate early. This could mean starting a business that caters to the new demand, investing in emerging companies, or learning new skills that align with the trend. The key is to be proactive, not reactive. Let's say you're interested in technology, and you see that artificial intelligence is going to be a massive part of the future. Instead of waiting for it to become a mainstream topic, Start learning about AI right now. Research how businesses are leveraging AI, what tools are being developed, and where the market is headed. Maybe you'll find an opportunity to invest in AI startups, or perhaps you'll decide to develop a product that incorporates AI in some way. The point is, you need to start thinking ahead, not just reacting to what's happening today. Markets will never stay the same. The world will continue to change, and you have to be willing to adapt to those changes if you want to stay ahead. The people who thrive financially are the ones who can spot opportunities before they fully materialize. They can see trends on the horizon and position themselves accordingly. The market will always reward those who evolve with it. Your job is to be one of them. The final point is simple. Research one new market or trend this month and start exploring ways you can participate early. Whether it's by investing, building a business, or learning new skills, take action to align yourself with the future, not the past. Because when the market changes, it's the adaptable who win. And if you learn to anticipate and evolve, you'll find that money will start chasing you. The temptation to get rich quick has always been one of the most dangerous traps in the pursuit of wealth. You've probably seen people chasing hot tips, trying to double their money overnight, or putting everything they have into the next big scheme. And while every now and then someone might get lucky, most of the time that path leads to disappointment, financial ruin, and years of wasted effort. The truth is, wealth that comes fast often fades just as quickly because it wasn't built on discipline, patience, and principles. Fortune favors the steady, not the greedy. When I first started out, I too was tempted by shortcuts. Someone would come along with a story, invest here and you'll double your money in a month, or this business will make you rich in no time. And like many people, I got burned a few times. It taught me a painful but necessary lesson. True wealth is not built by gambling, but by steady, consistent actions repeated over time. Think of it like farming. You can't plant seeds today and expect a harvest tomorrow. You water, you nurture, you wait. The soil doesn't respond to impatience. Wealth is no different. The strategy here is to resist the lure of greed and instead lean into patience. The wealthy understand something most people don't. Compounding. Compounding is the magic of time working in your favor. It's not just your money that grows. It's your discipline, your knowledge, and your ability to make better decisions. Every dollar invested wisely becomes a little worker that brings back more dollars. But those workers only multiply if you give them time. Pull them out too early, and you've killed the harvest before it matures. I've seen people spend decades working tirelessly, only to waste it all because they wanted quick results. They dipped in and out of investments, chasing the next big thing, never letting their wealth compound. Compare that to the person who sets up a simple, automated plan, investing consistently every month, regardless of whether the market is up or down. That person might not feel rich in the beginning, but over 10, 15, 20 years, the results are staggering. Their patience turns ordinary contributions into extraordinary fortunes. That's the philosophy you must adopt. Don't treat wealth like a lottery ticket. Treat it like a tree. Plant it once, care for it daily, and let time do its work. The practical step is simple yet powerful. Automate your wealth building. Open a long-term investment account and set up a monthly contribution. Even if it's a small amount, don't wait for the perfect time, because there will never be a perfect time. Just start and let consistency compound. Here's the key. Never interrupt compounding unnecessarily. Don't panic when markets dip. Don't cash out just because someone else got lucky overnight. Stay steady, stay patient, and let time magnify your discipline. Because the truth is, patience builds what greed destroys. And if you stay faithful to the process, you'll find that slow and steady doesn't just win the race, it wins the fortune. Ladies and gentlemen, wealth is not a mystery, it is a discipline. It is not reserved for the lucky few, but for those who dare to dream big, start small, and stay consistent. Every step you take, managing your money, developing your skills, creating streams of income, and exercising patience brings you closer to freedom. Don't wait for the perfect time. The perfect time is now. Begin with one action today. However small, the future does not respond to wishes. It responds to discipline. So, step forward and let money begin to chase you.